A school bus is hijacked by a group of criminals, and 5 snipers must do everything possible to save the hostages. The title of the movie is 15 Minutes of War, and this story won't leave anyone indifferent. The events of the movie take place in the second half of the 20th century in the African country of Djibouti. At that time, it was a French colony. Conflicts and disturbances regularly occurred there. A school bus appears on the road. The students greet the driver Francois and take their seats. A girl named Louise complains that her brother is sick and gets to stay at home. The other children are having fun playing and looking out of the window. A teacher of these children drives up the school. Her name is Jane Anderson. The woman enters the classroom, writes today's date on the blackboard, and waits for the students, but the school bus doesn't arrive. Jane realizes that something bad has happened, and it indeed has. At one of the stops, 2 boys enter the bus, Bernard and Harry. Several armed men burst into the cabin behind them. The leader of this gang, Barkhad, demands the children to sit silently and forces the driver to drive towards the Somalian border. The bus is immediately chased by several military jeeps. Barkhad orders the driver to accelerate as much as possible, while the other criminals shoot at the pursuing vehicles. The soldiers immediately contact the nearest checkpoint by radio and order them to close the border. The border guards block the road with metal spikes, and the bus runs over them at a tremendous speed and drives off the road. Threatening with a gun, Barkhad sends the driver to the checkpoint and forces the man to negotiate with the military so that the bus is allowed to pass. Francois runs to the border with his hands up, but even despite this, the soldiers open fire. Now, let's move to Paris. Captain André Geval is staying at the ward with his younger daughter, who has recently had her appendix removed. A nurse asks him to answer the phone. Geval listens to his interlocutor and then makes another call himself. He informs that he needs snipers. The man rushes to work. He finds out that the criminals have hijacked a school bus and stopped it on the border with Somalia. They promise to release the hostages if France recognizes Djibouti's independence. The commander orders the captain to travel there and help with the release of the hostages. Geval assembles his team at the airport. It includes Pierre Cazeneuve, Patrice Lorca, Georges Camperet, and Jean-Luc Laraine. The captain of the airplane crew approaches the main character and informs him that there are no free seats on board. Geval threatens to leave the airport without legs if he doesn't urgently deliver them to Africa. Jane arrives at the Somali border. The woman begs the local captain to let her join the children. He demands her to leave, but the teacher doesn't listen to him and runs towards the school bus, taking advantage of his distraction. One of the thugs gets off the bus with Louise, threatening Jane with a gun. He demands the woman to go back and even shoots the ground in front of her. The brave woman refuses, saying that she is obliged to stay with her students. After a little thought, the criminal lets Jane into the bus. The woman immediately claims the children. Now the criminals have not 21 hostages, but 22. Captain Geval and his team arrive in Africa and meet American military advisor Philip Schaefer. Together, they go to the place where the hostages are held. Late at night, Jane notices a wound on Bernard's face. She begs the criminals to let the boy go so he can get some medical help. Unfortunately, they refuse, and the boy remains in the bus. Captain Geval arrives at the Somali border with his squad. Local General Fevad doubts their professionalism, but orders the soldiers to escort the French to their military headquarters. Geval examines the situation in the school bus with binoculars. He is about to go on a reconnaissance mission to find some firing positions. General Fevad argues that this is a foolish idea, because the children are already asleep, which means nothing bad is likely to happen. Geval learns that there are 4 criminals. They are well armed and highly determined. There is some movement near the bus. One of the thugs easily walks towards the Somali checkpoint. Gerval is surprised, but Schaefer explains that they are all criminals and act in concert. General Fawad changes his mind and asks Gerval to go on a reconnaissance mission with a soldier named Rahmani. Gerval orders Lorraine and Lorca to take their rifles, climb on the roof and cover him. Lorca says that everyone calls Lorraine a machine because he never shows any emotion. The man replies that his job is to hit targets, and he doesn't care about anything else. Suddenly, Lorca and Lorraine notice that Gerval is running towards the bus. Looks like he's decided to deal with the thugs alone. After crossing a small field, Gerval hides behind the bus. Jane is taken out of the bus to relieve herself. The woman notices Gerval and gasps in surprise. Jane lies to the gangsters that she saw a snake, and he takes her back to the bus. Suddenly, the searchlights turn on, first on the Somali side and then on the Djibouti side. The criminals notice the intruder. Gerval has to run away. The snipers berate the soldiers for turning on the searchlights. They rudely respond and a fight breaks out. Gerval goes to General Fawad and tells him his plan. 5 rifles must fire simultaneously. All targets will be hit and no one will be able to return fire. It's difficult, but possible if professionals work together. The danger is that the Somalis may interfere, and then the children would get hurt. But for now, there are no other options. Jane is standing outside by the fire. Barkhad approaches her. The criminal says that it's better for such a beautiful woman to find a husband and have children, and he treats her to hot leaves. Another thug approaches them and advises the man to get rid of the extra hostage. Barkhad promises to do so, but later, Gerval briefs his team on the upcoming operation. The snipers prepare their weapons. His commanding officer calls from Paris. She says that Gerval's plan is to be implemented only in the case that there are no terrorists inside the bus. However, there are 4 criminals. They have to figure out how to lure them off the bus. The snipers take their firing positions in the early morning. Gerval assigns targets to his team members. With all the 4 criminals in the crosshairs, Gerval asks Fawad for permission to fire. However, the general denies it. He wants to solve the problem diplomatically. The snipers still keep the gangsters in their sights and are ready to pull the trigger at any moment. Some time passes, and Fawad informs Gerval that the food for the children will be brought to the bus. The snipers are resting, while Larian is still on guard. Several vehicles with military personnel are approaching from the Somali side. Gerval counts 60 soldiers, but Fawad assures that the situation is under control. French gendarmes led by Rahami bring food to the bus. Rahmani asks Barkhad to release some children, but he refuses. Louis jumps out of her seat and hides behind Rahmani's back. The gangster's leader immediately grabs a gun. Seeing this, Gerval orders the snipers to take positions, but it is dangerous to shoot now, as there is a teacher next to the criminals. The situation on the bus escalates. The children lie down on the seats and close their eyes. Barkhad shoots, Rahmani falls, Louise is brought back to her seat. Gerval realizes that their plan is incredibly risky, as the children may be hurt. Rahmani's body is returned to the headquarters, while the snipers sit under the tree and wait for further instructions. Jane asks the gangsters to let her take Bernard to the medics, but they only laugh in response. The woman learns that the children will be transported to Somalia at night. Gerval and Lorca return to the headquarters, while the other snipers remain in their positions. The captain asks General Fawad to make a final decision, because the snipers can't stay in the sun all day long. The general orders them to retreat. Gerval requests for at least several more hours. They will shoot and save the children. The general replies that he needs an order from Paris. Gerval offers Schaefer to join his squad. At that moment, Jane appears at the headquarters. Barkhad has allowed her to accompany Bernard to the infirmary after all. The woman drinks an entire bottle of water and recounts everything she has seen and heard. Gerval hears that the children will be taken to Somalia at dawn. The man asks Jane to calm the children down so they don't move and get caught in the crosshairs. The teacher explains that they've been in the heat for 24 hours and won't last much longer. Gerval suggests giving them some sedatives. The snipers are also suffering from the heat. They are thirsty, hungry, and of course very tired. Lorraine notices a suspicious jeep among the vehicles. Some man inside it gives orders to the Somalis. Jane brings many bottles of water with the sedatives to the bus, and they immediately distribute them among the children. Schaefer joins Gerval's team. He assumes that the man in the jeep is probably a KGB agent, but if they report it to their commander, they'll be ordered to retreat. Therefore, the snipers cover up what they have seen, take their positions, and reassign targets to each other. Gerval starts hallucinating because of the heat. The school children inside the bus fall asleep. The gangsters are getting ready to take them to Somalia. Gerval disobeys the general's orders and demands his snipers to open fire on the criminals. They must all shoot simultaneously, leaving no chance to harm the kids. Gerval's team succeeds, and the gangsters from the bus are successfully eliminated. A terrified Jane tries to wake the children up. A furious Barkhad who was at the Somali checkpoint during the gunfight bursts into the bus. He threatens Jane with a gun, but French snipers quickly eliminate him. And here comes another problem. The Somalis at the checkpoint start to fuss, run to their guns and open fire as well. A fierce gunfight ensues, during which the children must be somehow evacuated. The legionaries, led by General Fawad, do not engage. The snipers are left to fend off the enemy on their own. Gerval is wounded. Despite this, his team continues to shoot back fiercely to save not only themselves but also the children. The Somalis approach the bus. Jane grabs one of the thugs' pistols. The French snipers change position to keep the Somalis from hitting the bus. Jane shoots back as well. Several snipers get to the school bus and shoot back at the Somalis from the inside. The rest are covering their comrades from other locations. We see some real professionals at work. Camper gets wounded in the leg, but it doesn't stop him. They finally eliminate the suspicious man in the jeep. Grenades are thrown at the bus, and the snipers along with Jane throw them back at the Somalis. They explode, and the thick smoke envelops the area. The protagonists have to shoot literally at random. Despite this, the enemies are eliminated. Soon a vehicle meant to evacuate the children appears near the bus. The snipers breathe a sigh of relief, but one of them notices a wounded Louise under the seat. Alas, she can't be saved. Gerval and his team return to base. All the soldiers salute them. General Fawad praises Gerval for a successful operation, and the captain becomes furious at these words because he didn't come to their aid. The general explains that he was waiting for the order. The children from the school bus return to their families. However, they will never forget all the horror they experienced that day. We learn that Gerval's team has freed over 600 hostages in 40 years and lost 11 of their snipers in doing so. As for Djibouti, it became an independent country a year after the story.